Alright, team, so we are back, of course, talking about some Final Fantasy VII Remake 16, just kind of general Square Enix information, because we learned today that Square Enix will be a part of E3 2021. We got confirmation from President and CEO of Square Enix, Yasuke Matsuda. More specifically, he says Outriders, which was originally delayed, was released on April 1st, and Nier Replicant will be out this month, too. FF7 Remake Integrate is in June. We also have many other games lined up, so please look forward to E3 in June, where we can make announcements then. So the obvious topic of discussion here is what can we expect to see at E3 2021? There are other games besides the Final Fantasy games that are in the pipeline for Square Enix, stuff like Neo, The World Ends With You, Babylon's Fall, Forspoken, obviously Final Fantasy 16, which that's the one I truly expect to be there in terms of the Final Fantasy games. By the time June rolls around and we get the E3 event, it'll be almost a year since we got the reveal trailer for Final Fantasy 16. That came out in like August or September of last year, and other than the website going live in October, I don't think we've had a whole lot of info at all about that game, at least that I've personally seen, so that game is definitely desperate for some new information and a new trailer. The other super likely Final Fantasy games to be at E3 is, of course, First Soldier and Ever Crisis. Now, I'm not sure that both of them would be at this event or be talked about, new trailers, whatever the case. If only one of them were going to be here, it's obviously going to be First Soldier, since that's the one that's coming out sometime in 2021. We could even get like a release date too. Like they might show us a new trailer, maybe talk about the game some more, and then give us an actual release date for when we should expect First Soldier this year. Now, of course, Ever Crisis could be at this event as well, but it's not coming out until 2022. That's why I'm not sure if they would talk about it some more yet. I don't even know how much you can really say about it that we don't already know. Like we know it's a chibi version of the FF7 compilation. We know there's mobile gacha, stuff like that, monthly releases for new chapters. We kind of already know everything about this, so I don't know, maybe they just want to show it off some more. They could have just a new trailer showing some more scenes from like the beginning, the Midgar segment or whatever of FF7. Like maybe they could do that. Now that we got all that stuff out of the way, we've got to this point of the video. You know what it is. You know we got to discuss it. You know we got to talk about it. Remake Part 2. Now, is it going to be at this event? The odds are not likely. Whenever E3 happens this year, which is from June 12th to June 15th, Integrate will have been out for literally just like a couple of days whenever the start of E3 like happens, like 2 days or something. It'd be kind of weird for them to already just start talking about Part 2. As much as we want them to, I would be fine with it. It's just kind of weird, like they just released the PS5 version of Remake with new content, but also let's discuss Part 2. Like I just don't see them doing that. Now, that being said, of course, as always, it is entirely possible. We know they've been working on Remake Part 2, it's been in full development for at least around a year or so. Around the time that E3 happens, we learned like last year, 2020, in July, that they were already in full development. But we don't know exactly when they started full development. Like the information came out in July, but they could have already been working on Part 2 for a couple months at that point or something, right? We don't exactly know. And then we also know, and I mentioned this a few times here on the channel, that they were talking about in 2019 that they were already working on Part 2. And I've mentioned that a few times, but I don't know if I've ever like sourced that information. And I feel like I never could find it, and today randomly I was able to like super easily find it. It was a blog from the Square Enix website in November 2019 where Nomura says that they're already working on Part 2. But in kind of a similar situation as the July full development thing we just looked at, we don't exactly know when they started working on Part 2, but it was in 2019. So you could make the argument that they've been working on Part 2 for at least 2 years at this point, if not more than that, which is long enough for them to be far enough in development to like show us something if they wanted to. So with them already reusing assets from Remake Part 1, with them already having like 2 years at least of development or so under their belt for Part 2, and with the intermission DLC like kind of bridging the gap between PS4 to PS5, like they already have a lot of like base and groundwork for Part 2. Like I don't think Part 2 is as far away as a lot of people seem to think it is. People out there are thinking 2024, 2025 and shit like that. I don't think it's that far away. I don't think it's anywhere near that far away. Like pure speculation on my end, I'm thinking late, super late 2022 at the absolute earliest. The earliest. I'm not saying it's going to come out in 2022, but if it did, it'd be at the end of 2022 or sometime within 2023. Like that's what I'm foreseeing when it comes to Part 2. Like, and don't get me wrong, I'm not sitting here saying they need to rush and get out Part 2 as soon as possible, but they got to also keep the hype going. And Intermission's coming out more than a year after the release of, Remake Part 1, and that, 2-chapter DLC is not going to be enough to hold people over for the next however many years until Part 2 comes out. Like they got to get the next game out in a timely manner. And I think they know that. So, of course, we'll definitely be paying attention to E3 2021, seeing what they show and talk about. We also have a Square Enix Presents coming out sometime within the summer as well, which could be another place where they could talk about any of the stuff we discussed within this video. So, summer 2021 will be pretty interesting when it comes to Square Enix, because we got Integrated releasing in June, we also have E3 in June, and then a Square Enix Presents at some point within the summer. So, definitely a lot of information on the horizon. Other than my dudes, that's the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. Want to update more Final Fantasy VII Remake, 16, Square Enix news, whatever the case. Turn on my notifications. Follow me on Twitter, dashingdavidbusiness. I'm a Discord. Links to my social networks are in the description. And in the outro. Later, guys.
Used to care what people thought, but now I care more, and nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore, I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. So insecure, no one's perfect. We spend it with no shame. We blow that like Coltrane. We in here like Logain, or leave it like Cobain.